really with 8:6, but I'm going to read 8:5. And the angel took the censer and filled it with fire of the altar and cast it into the earth. And there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake. So now, as I said in verse 5 here, this is where the silence was broken. It was broken in verse 5. We don't know if the folk heard the voices, but we do know they heard the thunderclaps and the lightnings and the earthquakes. So I assume they heard the voices as well. Chapter 1 lets us know that this silence, they will be getting preparation for what's going to happen. So the preparation is in verse 6 for the judgments. And the angels which had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. That's the preparation. They prepared themselves to sound. Okay, this is the seventh plague that God sent against Egypt. Verse 7. The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast unto the earth, upon the earth, and the third part of the trees was burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. Now, as I said, this was the 7th plague that God sent on Egypt. Exodus chapter 9. Exodus 9:19 through 25. Exodus 9:19. Send therefore now and gather thy cattle and all that thou hast in the field. For upon every man and beast which shall be found in the field and shall not be brought home, the hail shall come down upon them, and they shall die. He that feareth the word of the Lord among the servants of Pharaoh made his servants and his cattle flee into the houses. And he that regarded not the word of the Lord left his servants and his cattle in the field. And the Lord said unto Moses, stretch forth thine hand toward heaven, that there may be hail in all the land of Egypt, upon man, and upon beast, and upon every herb of the field throughout the land of Egypt. And Moses stretched forth his rod toward heaven, and the Lord sent thunder and hail, and the fire ran along the ground. And the Lord rained hail upon the land of Egypt. So there was hail and fire mingled with. So there was hail and fire mingled with hail, very grievous, such as there was none like it in all the land of Egypt since it became a nation. And the hail smote throughout all the land of Egypt, all that was in the field, both man and beast, and the hail smote every herb of the field, and brake every tree of the field. So this plague that you see in Revelation 8:7, it happened in Egypt. Only difference was there wasn't an earthquake in Egypt. There wasn't an earthquake. The earthquake was only in this Revelation 8:7. The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth, and the third part of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. That's the first trumpet. Like I said, 8:7, we're going to see was an earthquake. We'll see it, that's in verse 5 there. That's where the earthquake is in verse 5. And the angel took the censer and filled it with fire upon the altar and cast it into the earth. And there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and earthquake. Earthquake. See, if you notice in verse 7, Revelation 8:7, God didn't kill livestock or servants. In 8:7, he did not kill livestock or servants. But by God destroying the third part of the trees and grass, that would devastate the livestock as well as affect the world's food chain. If you kill no livestock, burn up everything, would devastate it. Right? So all you have to do is get rid of the grass. Let's move on. Second trumpet. And the second angel sounded, and as it were, a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became blood. And the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died. And the third part of the ships were destroyed. Now this is a triple judgment right here. Third part of salt water turned to blood. The sea is salt water. Third part of marine life affected. Third part of ships destroyed. Now, as of January the 1st, 1981, there were 24,867 merchant ships registered. January 1st, 1981. 24,867 merchant ships registered. Now imagine if a third part, or 8,289 of those were destroyed and their cargoes was lost. Imagine that. We won't even talk about the warships and the love boats and all that stuff. All that's gone. Think of the effect it would have. See, God has hit man right where it hurts. Right where it hurts. You know where it hurts at? In his bank account. Mm-hmm. That's where it hurts. That's where he's hitting it, right in the bank account. Now, verse 7 would affect the fruit, produce industry, and the milk industry. The first angel sounded. There followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth. And the third part of seas were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. So that would affect the fruit, produce, and the milk industry. Think about that. Verse 8 and 9 will also take care of the fishing industry. That goes down, among other things, because the waters become blood. That'll take care of the fishing industry. Now, if the rapidity of these judgments wasn't coming so fast, man might think a little bit, but they're coming too fast. Look at the word "and." The word "and." You remember I said last time that every chapter in the book of Revelation, starting with chapter 5, begins with the word "and." And nearly every verse begins with the word "and." Revelation 8:1 says "and." 8:2 says "and." 8:3 says "and." 8:4 "and." 8:5 "and." 8:6 "and." 8:8 "and." 8:9 "and." They're coming real fast. You see, man would start a war against man, but folk out of fellowship with God would strike at each other. When stuff like that started happening. I'm going to tell you something. See, people who's out of fellowship with God will jump on other people that's not bothered. For some reason. One might say, we can go to church. That's not serving God. But you out of fellowship with God, you will strike out to somebody that's not. Look at Cain and Abel, for example. I go further back than that. I would say that Osama bin Laden of Afghanistan attacked the U.S. President Bush attacked Iraq. That don't make sense, do it? But man out of fellowship with God would do that. That's the nature of sin, right? I attack Sister Lisa, and Sister Lisa go and attack Sister Kate. Something wrong with that. See, Saul threw a spear at David for playing the harp. David wasn't bothering Saul. David had Uriah killed for Bathsheba. Uriah wasn't bothering David. That's the nature of sin right there. Let's move. Third trumpet. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp. And it fell upon the third part of the waters, and upon the fountains of waters. And the name of the star is called Wormwood. And the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters, because they were made bitter. Now I believe this star was some kind of something molten. Maybe a big old meteorite or something molten. It begins to disintegrate when it hits the earth's atmosphere. And then God has pieces falling in various bodies of water. Now if the star hadn't come apart, it would destroy the earth, because every star in heaven is larger than earth. Call it wormwood. That wormwood is a strong smelling plant that produces a bitter oil. That's what that is. Wormwood in the Old Testament has to do with sorrow. Deuteronomy 28, 29, 18. It has to do with sorrow. Deuteronomy 29, 18. Lest there should be among you man or woman, or family or tribe, whose heart turneth away this day from the Lord our God, to go and serve the gods of these nations, lest there should be among you a root that beareth gall and wormwood. It's a bitter fruit, it's a bitter plant that, produces a real bitter oil. Now verse, let me show you another. Proverbs 5:4. Proverbs 5:4. Proverbs chapter 5, verse 4. We'll read verse 3 first. For the lips of a strange woman drop as a honeycomb, and her mouth is smoother than oil. For her end is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Wormwood. And in Revelation chapter 8, verse 11, it says, many men died of the waters because they were made wormwood. These folk died because they called God a liar. How did they call him a liar? Because they didn't obey him, and they proved it by their lifestyle. See, if they believed in him, they wouldn't be in the Great Tribulation. They wouldn't be in it. See, you're a believer or unbeliever. If you're an unbeliever, you're calling God a liar. All unsaved folks is calling God a liar. You say, well, why did you say that? Acts 17:30 says that. Acts 17:30 says they're calling God a liar. In the times of this ignorance, God winked at or overlooked, but now commandeth all men everywhere to repent. Now God commands folks to get saved. And if you don't, the only other option is hell. If you die, the Great Tribulation will happen if you miss the rapture. Now the reason why I say that these folk calling God a liar, he commands you to get saved. And if you're not saved, what you're telling him is, I don't believe it. I don't believe you're saved. So I ain't gonna bother with it. They call him a liar. Tell you this Great Tribulation is something else. Verse 12, 8:12. And the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars. So as the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. What we have here is a partial eclipse. A partial eclipse. But Zechariah, the prophet Zechariah, really summed it up in chapter 14, verse 6 and 7. He gave us a real good description of it. Chapter 14, verse 6 and 7 of Zechariah. Verse 6 says, and it shall come to pass in that day that the light shall not be clear nor dark, but it shall be one day which shall be known to the Lord, not day nor night, but it shall come to pass that at evening time it shall be light. That's the way he sums it up. There's going to be a lot of morally upright church going folk that's going to witness this. They're going to go through that tribulation. See, religious folk that didn't get saved. Religious folks that didn't get saved. See, religion is a formality without reality. That's a good description of it, isn't it? Formality without reality. See, a person can be faithful church member without loving Christ. You know, when I was young, I used to listen to a group. I think they call it Four Tops. Y'all heard about it. And I love to hear them sing Bernadette. You know, but I didn't love Bernadette. I didn't know who she was. Or she was real. You know, but I like to hear Bernadette. And I was singing with her. I didn't know about no Bernadette. I ain't never known nobody named Bernadette. See, but I want to point out, God takes His word very seriously. Very seriously. Psalm 138, verse 2. Y'all don't have to turn there if you don't want to, but I'll read it. I'm just going to show you how serious He takes His word. Psalm 138, verse 2. I will worship toward thy holy temple and praise thy name for thy loving kindness and for thy truth. For thou hast magnified thy word above all thy name. Thou hast magnified thy word above all thy name. Magnify means enlarged or made big. You know, ain't no sense in singing love songs to Jesus if you don't care about His word. You don't want to hear it. Verse 13 of Revelation 8:13. And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the three angels which are yet to sound. Now some Bibles say angel, some Bibles say eagle. It could be either God could have sent the fourth living creature, which was the eagle creature, on the cherubim. That could have been Him, I don't know, on this mission. Either way, eagle or angel, it's going to get folks' attention. And His message is woe, woe, woe. Woe is a word that characterizes intense grief. That's what that does. These last three trumpets are worse than the first four, and they are designated as woes. Chapter 9, verse 1. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. Now this fallen star is a person. It's emphasized by the word him. It's a him. Now this person doesn't have complete authority because the key was given to him. So he don't have total authority. Verse 2, it says, And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace. And the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the furnace. Now think about it. The sun and the air were darkened. Now keep in mind, the third part was already dark. Revelation 8:12. Third part was already dark. But now the air was dark. So what's happening? Mankind is coughing. He's wheezing. His eyes burning. He can't see and he can't breathe. If any of y'all have been in a smoke-filled room, you know what I'm talking about. Your eyes burning, you're going through some changes. And that, verse 3, And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. Now two things thus far was given. The key was given, and now we got scorpion power given. This means they didn't have it until it was given. It was given. Verse 4. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. Now, you remember last week we was talking about the sealing of 144,000. Well, these men didn't have it. And these things coming out here stinging were demon locusts. Now, locusts' natural appetite is green things. Trees and grass and leaves, green things. But God said don't hurt that. God said hurt everybody but the 144,000 that don't have the seal in their foreheads. Now imagine you were being hurt and you can't mount any kind of defense, offense or defense, because you can't see and you can't breathe. All you can do is to lay down there and sort of like, I guess, tremble like a dying cockroach or something. That's about all you can do. Verse 5 says, and look, now this is true. And to them it was given, that's something else given, that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months. And their torment was as a torment of a scorpion when he striketh a man. 5 months. Now here's something else that was given. Don't kill, just torment. That means to suffer or to treat evil. They were limited to what they strike or how far they may go, and how long they can do it. Now the effect of this torment will drive folk to commit suicide. We're going to see that. They want to commit suicide and they can't. All they can do is lay out there and cough and wheeze and choke. And as my cousin said, and tremble like a stripper. That's all they can do. Lay out there and just vibrate. Notice it now. In those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. Now you know it's bad when folks desire to die. Now can you imagine the whole of unsaved mankind will be in such torment for 5 months? They're going to seek death and desire to die, and death going to run away. Death flee, normally it's the opposite, man running from death. But now death fleeing away. See, that's a good topic of discussion. It is. Man used to run from death, now death running from him. Now just a reminder of how bad this is. I keep thinking about they can't breathe, they can't see, and can't die. You can't breathe, can't see, can't die, and they're being stung as a scorpion stings 5 months with no reprieve. A bee sting is pretty bad, but they tell me scorpion is worse. And 5 months with no reprieve. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses, prepared unto battle. And on their heads were as it were crowns like gold, and their faces were the faces of men. That's scary stuff right there. You're being stung, and then you look, if you could see what was stinging, they're looking like that. Notice. And they had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. And they had breastplates, as it were breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. And they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. Now you hear all that. These men hear all that rustling, all that noise, the wings, and you still coughing and choking and wheezing, and they still stinging 5 months. And you can't die. See, these verses give us a description of these demonic locusts. Now keep in mind, this is how John saw them. Unsaved man couldn't see them. They couldn't see them at all, because of what verse 9 says. But like I said, they could hear the sound of the wings, they could feel the power of the stings, and they could hear others crying out in pain. You could hear them crying. Verse 11, and they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. The Hebrew is Abaddon. That means, that means the unsaved Jews weren't exempt. And the Greek is Apollyon. That means the unsaved Gentiles wasn't exempt. God is no respecter of persons. Now see, this is who came through Egypt. This is who came through Egypt. That night the firstborn died. I'm going to show you. Exodus 12:23. This is who came through Egypt. Folk got all kind of funny names for him. They call him the death angel and all that stuff. These two words, Abaddon and Apollyon, the word means destroyer. Destroyer. But look at what did I say, Exodus 12. Exodus 12. For the Lord will pass through to smite the Egyptians, and when he seeth the blood upon the lintels, and on the two side posts, the Lord will pass over the door, and will not suffer the destroyer to come into your houses and smite you. So the word Abaddon and Apollyon, those are words meaning destroyer. That was Abaddon that passed over in Egypt. Abaddon. So nobody's exempt because God, like I said, is no respect of persons. 9:12. One woe is past, and behold, there come two woes more hereafter. Like I said, that's grief. Grief. Now, 8:13 says there are three woes. This first woe is inside the fifth trumpet, and we'll see two other woes later. This first woe is inside that fifth trumpet. Verse 13, and the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar, which is before God. The voice in verse 13, I believe, is the same angel in Revelations 8, verse 3 and 4. Seems as if he had a priestly ministry. Revelations 8, 3 and 4. And another angel came and stood at the altar, having a golden censer, and there was given unto him much incense, and that he should offer it with the prayers of all saints upon the golden altar, which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense, which came up with the prayers of the saints, ascended up before God out of the angel's hand. Seems like he had a priestly ministry. See, this is what the Catholics get at. When you see the Pope and he's shaking that smoke coming out of there, shaking that censer, that's what he gets at. Verse 13. The angel sounded, sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the horns of a golden altar, which is before God, saying to the sixth angel, which had the trumpet, loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. Now, I want to point out, there's some wicked angels in this world. There's some wicked angels in this world. And if God didn't hold them back, guess where they come at? They will come right at God's folks. Now notice God didn't say unclean spirits or demons or devils. He said angels. And they're so bad that they had to be bound. And there are others as well. And we're going to look at two of them and then we're going to stop. 2 Peter 2:4. 2 Peter 2:4 is one group of them. 2 Peter 2:4. Okay. Verse 4. For God spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them down into hell, and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved unto judgment. Now you see what it says, deliver them into chains of darkness. Now watch this group of angels in Jude 6. The ones in Peter were delivered into chains of darkness. Jude 6. And the angels which kept not their first estate were left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness until the judgment of the great day. You got a group that's chained into darkness, you got another group under darkness. Those are wicked angels.